Hello everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel, and today in this video we are going to learn about important criminologists. So in criminology, all the scientists who study criminology, who perform criminology, and these are the people who helped developing criminology as a subject and as a discipline. That's why their role and their contribution is really very important to the subject and to the discipline criminology. Okay, so all the people who all are associated with this science, criminology, are known as criminologists. Okay, so one by one we'll see different people who all were there in the field of criminology, and they help make it a better discipline, and they contributed their part in the subject. Okay, the field of criminology draws on a various disciplines, including psychology, physiology, social anthropology, biology, and law. So everything is included in criminology. So we can draw criminology as psychology, forensic. We can call it criminal psychology. We can include criminal physiology, criminal social anthropology, and biology and law. Okay, so criminologists took the causes, consequences, and control of criminal acts. So all these people, all the criminologists, will look at the causes. What are the different causes? Which is the reason behind any crime? Different causes, consequences. If any crime had happened, what are the consequences? And control of criminal acts. Okay, a criminologist look and observe over the causes of crime, consequences of crime, and control of criminal acts. Okay, by considering both individual. So these people consider that individual and wider social influences. Okay, that person and the other social influence. Because of that, that person may or may not be is like that person may or may not get involved in any criminal act. Okay, so criminologists will see causes, consequences, control of the act. They include individual and social influences to seek find a way to prevent crime. So we are doing all this to prevent crime. Okay, because we don't want any crimes in our society, in our nation. So that's why we are giving our 100%. We are giving our 100%, and all the scientists and researchers are giving their 100% in criminology to prevent crimes. Okay, so first person was Sir Beccaria. So he considered that person is considered as the father of criminal law. So he's the father of criminal law and modern criminal justice. So that Cesare Beccaria is the person who is known as father of criminal law and model criminal justice. So father of criminal law and father of modern criminal justice. Beccaria studied mathematics, so he was a student of mathematics and economics before turning into law. So before coming to the law, or before involving in law, he was a student of mathematics and economics. Okay, his most famous work is on crime and punishment. So that person's or Sir Beccaria's work is on crimes and different type of punishment. It was the first published argument against the death penalty. So he was the person who argued over the death penalty. Okay, so that thing was the first ever published argument at that time when that person was involved in law. So he was the first person to publish argument against the death penalty. Earlier, death penalties were really very frequent and easy. Beccaria advocated that the certainty of punishment worked better as a deterrent than the severity of the punishment. So he advocated that severity of punishment worked better. So it depends. If the crime is really very severe, so the punishment should be really very severe. Okay, so it is associated with certainty of the the type of punishment worked better as a deterrent than the severity of the punishment. Okay. Next was Jeremy Bentham. So Jeremy Bentham was an English philosopher. That person is English philosopher. Bentham works ranges from economics and advocating animal rights. So he advocated animal rights. He was a student of economics, or he was working, like the work area of that scientist was economics. Okay, so he was the work of Jeremy Bentham ranges from economics to advocating criminal law to forming social reforms and funding the welfareism. Okay, funding of welfareism. So it's like it is more likely to for the society and welfare, like that. So that person was involved in economics, advocating animal rights, social reforms, and welfare. Okay, he had an influence in reforming schools. So we have different type of schools. In upcoming lecture we'll see. So he had an influence in reforming schools, prisons, courts, and England's poor law. Okay, so he had an influence on reforming schools, all the schools which, like in reforming that schools, reforming prisons, reforming court, and he had influence on England's poor law, an attempt to codify common law into status. Fine. Aligned with his opinion and transparency, Bentham body was preserved upon his death. Because of his work, like that dead body of like this scientist, or Bentham's dead body, was preserved after his death. His auto icon, he was an auto icon in publicity and displayed the University of London. That dead body was like displayed publicly in the University of London. Next scientist is Cesare Lombroso, really very famous and very frequently used. So he was responsible for bringing the term criminal into existence. So he was the person who incorporated the word criminal, and he worked on that word, and this word came into existence. Lombroso argued that the criminality was inherent. Okay, so he said that the criminality is inherent, just like our other traits. Like one thing passes from the other generation into next generation into next generation. So he said that the criminality is inherent and could be identified through physical characteristics. So he said that it is inherent and we can identify that person according to physical characteristics, suggesting criminal were involuntarily regression. So he said that the criminals were involuntarily regression. So Lombroso would categorize criminal into four things, into four section, you can say. First categorization was criminaloids. Okay, so criminals by passion. So these are the criminals who opted this profession because of passion. Then he said the born criminals. Okay, so occasional, then born criminals, and they are like criminaloids. So first category was criminaloids. Okay, so criminaloids includes criminal by passion, and they are born criminals. They are born criminals, and by collecting anthropological data such as physiological measurements, could create a methodology for predicting criminal behavior. So he said that because of anthropometric data, or if we use anthropological data and anthropometric um, data, we can measure, or we can create a methodology and a rule of prediction of in criminal behavior. Okay, so then next person is Sir Alexander. So he was responsible for creating the Alexander School, or we can say criminology, in Lyon, France. So Alexander was contemporarily and rival of Lombroso. So he was a rival of Lombroso. So whatever Lombroso used to say, he used to oppose that. Okay, who came in crime? So who came to crime in psychology through his work as a physician. So he was a physician, and he came into this subject, criminology, in crime and psychology, through his physical work. It was his belief that criminality was influenced more by social factors. So Lombroso used to say that it is inherited, and that that is like not correct, of course, but Lombroso used to say that it is inherent, and Alexander was anti-Lombroso. So he said that it is influenced, any criminal activity and criminology is more influenced by social factor than the hereditary ones. Okay, opposite to Lombroso, he would determine his own categories concerning criminality through and instinct, you can say. His parietal emphasis on phrenology meant his contribution were overlooked for some time. So because that person's emphasis on phrenology, it's like that person's contribution were overlooked for a certain period of time. The next scientist is Enrico Ferri. So Enrico Ferri, this time a student of Lombroso. So Enrico Ferri was a student of Lombroso. So Enrico Ferri was a radical socialist, you can say. Radical. He was a radical socialist, and his most famous work is criminal sociology. The most famous work of Enrico Ferri is Criminal Sociology, which influenced Argentina's 1921 penal code reforms. Okay, because criminology again like is related with law and formation of law. He overlooked making changes to economic and social factors that contributed to criminal behavior, stating that it is better to prevent crime than punish it. So he advocated making changes in economics and social factors that contribute to criminal behavior. So we will eliminate all the possible ways in like from the economic section and from the social factors, so that we can stop the criminal behavior. And he said that criminal behavior, he states that it is better to prevent crime than the punishment. Okay, then we have Sir Hans Eysenck. So he was appointed in a field form in Berlin, England, as a young man, as a psychology professor. So he was a psychology professor. His primary field of study considered the genetic factors. So he was studying genetic factors that used to influence, or that may influence personality. His investigation into psychology or criminology gave rise to his interest in criminology with the help of his wife. So his wife was again in this field. So that her wife produced a book on crime and personality, and they developed theories on behavioral therapies and relation between personality and intelligence. Okay, next scientist is Sir Robert D. Hare. So he was author of notable criminology book, that is Psychopathy, Theory and Research, and Without Coincidence or Coincidence. The distributing word of the psychopaths among us. So this word is really very common, and we often use this word for fun. Hare is a Canadian researcher. He is in the field of criminal psychology. His work looked at psychopathology and psychosociology, and forms his research into qualities of a psychopath, concluded that it may not be possible to identify murderers. Okay, 20 items checklist is still considered most reliable metric for measurement of psychopathy. Next was Sir Jane Addams. So he was the only second female person of the Nobel Peace Prize. Adam, her privileged upbringing and traditional womanly duties to study how society and poverty influence crime. So she was working on that, and that woman is known as mother of social work. So Jane is known as mother of social work. Adam was an activist and a lecturer in these subjects, encouraging their study and helping establishing U.S. settlement house movement in 1883 with the aim of combating crime through economic security. Next, we have Sir Edwin Sutherland. So he was one of the most influenced criminologists in 20th century. Edwin Sutherland authored Principle of Criminology. What? Principle of Criminology. Principle of Criminology, a popular textbook. It is the first, it is from Sutherland. We have the term called white collar crime, and he gave rise to a belief of delinquency like resulted from learners' behavior. Okay. He observed that criminal behavior stems from criminal associations, and suggested social disorganization and conflict are major contributors to crime. Then next we have William Julius. So he was a prominent sociologist and Harvard alumnus. Julius studied urban sociology and particular focus given to those factors, especially under urban poverty that contributes to crime. Much of his work revolves around racial factors such as how poverty among black communities influences different crime rates. Okay, different crime rates with discrimination, education, housing, employment, and being taken into consideration. Okay, his work was a truly disadvantage and deadline significance of race examined this greater length. So he worked on racial identification and racial things. So that's why his work was a disadvantage, because we do not uh, quote racial things into criminal behavior or criminal act or criminality or criminology. Fine. So these were few scientists in the field who gave their part of contribution in criminology. So I hope the lecture is interesting, and if you need any type of help, you can comment that help, like whatever help you need, you can comment your question query in the comment box, and then we can address it. Okay, see you in the next lecture. Have a great day ahead, and you can subscribe. Okay, we have a Telegram channel, we have Telegram, we have Instagram, and our official app. So please don't forget to visit these places. Description is in link is in the description. Okay, see you in the next lecture, guys. Bye.